You know, no matter how well something's made or how many ways here we try to make things last, time and elements always work against us. That also includes America's infrastructure. Now, to see that, all you have to do is take a drive pretty much anywhere right now. Even our best, newest roads seem to be littered with potholes thanks to all the snow, of course, and fixing them takes a lot of money. Recent estimates put it at $5 billion a year across America is the cost of potholes, and that was before this winter here, so just imagine that price tag. But at least potholes are something that usually, knock on wood, get fixed. But what about other parts of everyday life that we not only rely on here, but almost take for granted that never get any funding, let alone TLC? Our region is still reeling from Hurricane Sandy. Don't let anybody kid you that we've really fixed some of the core problems. And in places, repair work has barely been going on, let alone been taking painstaking amounts of time. But other than rebuilding, what else have we really done to try to prevent or even just reduce the damage from future storms? Now, don't think too hard here. The answer is we haven't really done anything because it costs money. Now, mix in one more hurdle, government dysfunction, with the parties unable to agree on, well, just about anything, and with so many people focusing on and criticizing spending before even the issue can even be addressed. The money that works here on our infrastructure just has not been there in recent years, and it is needed. This isn't some partisan issue. As unbiased a group that you can find, a report here from the American Society of Civil Engineers, nonpartisan group here focused on protecting public infrastructure here, and our infrastructure, they say it needs a whole lot of protecting. Overall, they grade our infrastructure at a D+, and they estimate it would take investment of $3.6 trillion, that's with a T, trillion dollars by the year 2020 to raise the score up to a B. And the problems, they say, are everywhere. D grades for aviation, dams, drinking water, hazardous waste, roads, schools, transit systems, and more. Bridges, they got a grade of C+, one of the better grades on the list. And that, you got to keep in mind, the bridge is scoring well here next time you drive the GW, which opened back in 1931. The Triborough, back in 1936. The Lincoln Tunnel here, operating since 1927. Now think of all the traffic jams we get when any of them are even a little crowded, let alone getting repairs. Imagine what would happen if they were to close or to literally go away. Listen, what we try and do in the show is obviously talk about the topical issues, but there are issues that we know are going to come up, and one of the things Washington and even state council have been terrible about lately is not just dealing with the problems of today, but the problems of tomorrow and the near future. And Andrew, the next big storm here, the consequence can be worse, not better. We haven't really fortified any of our coastal areas. And we know that our major highways, our bridges, our tunnels, basic infrastructure, it's getting worse. It has to. It's called science. It just wears and wears down, but it costs a lot of money to fix.
Yeah, it's like you got a leaky roof going and you're just not willing to spend the money to fix the roof, and the next time it rains, that leak gets bigger and bigger and bigger. There's that problem. There's, the problem that everything starts to degrade a little bit as you don't fix it up, roads and bridges and train tracks, and you could just name everything all the way through. And there's one more element to all this too. The Chinas of the world and the Europes of the world are spending lots of money on their own infrastructure and making sure that their own systems work just fine. We fall behind against the rest of the world when doing that. You would think it would be the kind of thing that would be divorced from politics, but nothing's divorced from politics these days, and that's one of the reasons why we're stuck.
And if you think about in history throughout time, part of the New Deal, part of the big, this is what we did. We grew, we built, listen, it's a planet, it's getting hotter, more stuff's getting worn out. All you got to do is go out west, look what's going on with the droughts and stuff. We've got problems even with water. I'm not trying to solve the world's problems right now, but I am saying you got to fix your roads. You can't let your bridges collapse, right? And stuff can't last for 100 years and expect to work great. We got to do this sooner or later. It would put people to work. I mean, I know it costs money, but it would put people to work. I don't see another way around it.
Well, you know what, Richard? This is one area, the infrastructure, where Democrats and Republicans are one. They are exactly one.
Except
and that is, right, they ignore the infrastructure. Here's the problem. We're part of the problem, the public. We appreciate our law and order mayors and governors and town, county executives and so on, but the infrastructure has come at the expense of law and order, fire, police, sanitation, all these tax cuts that we keep getting
And nobody
so
wants
on.
to pay higher tolls.
And
you
nobody
know?
wants to pay higher tolls.
taxes.
And so when the first thing you're taught as a journalist covering a budget is the details. No matter what they say, don't pay attention to their lips. The devil is always in the details. And so it's true because they'll tell you these great sound bites, and then when you look in the budget, you'll see where the infrastructure is always left out. And so we're looking at the result of that now.
And Andrew, this much we're 100% sure on. It's going to be a big issue. And it has to come up sooner than later. And nobody's got an easy answer to it, but they got to do something about it.
You can do it one way or the other. You can either try to take steps to make sure that the problems don't get worse in the future, or you can just go around and try to fill every pothole after the pothole gets created, except your potholes this time are bridges or train tracks or tunnels or airports or electric systems or water systems or whatever.
Mark our words here. This is going to be a huge, huge political issue that's unavoidable in the not too distant future. Andrew, Dom, thank you guys. All right, next up. Accused of using 9/11 injuries as a scam. Reaction from those looking out for the real 9/11 heroes. You won't believe this story if you haven't heard already. We'll talk to somebody who deals directly with the real 9/11 victims and heroes straight ahead.